Hello friends, the Iranian president's helicopter went missing today. We have footage from Iran showing rescuers arriving in a mountainous area extremely covered in fog. Night has fallen in the region and they are searching for that helicopter. 2 or 3 days ago, I was working on a video that I published for Patreon subscribers. I always publish on Patreon first, then on YouTube. This video shows a very unusual situation, a plane flying in the fog. I'd like to show you the danger of these flights. I'd like to share just a part of this video with you so you can see the danger of flying in the fog. This is filmed by a passenger. We are on board an Airbus A320. Someone is filming from their window, from their porthole. I invite you to see and hear the following. In terms of noise, at the beginning of the video, you hear the sound of a cavalry charge. The human pilot disconnected the autopilot. Since this passenger is seated relatively toward the front, as the shot he takes clearly shows, he hears the noise, which is still very loud, of the autopilot disconnecting. Afterward, the plane noticeably veers right from the ground. The runway markings start sliding right, but it's our plane that's actually moving left. And after a massive 1.8 G impact with the ground, what we call a controlled flight into terrain. Controlled flight into terrain, the plane bounces, takes off, goes around, then you hear explosions. Boom, boom, boom. That's compressor stall, the engine. Engine number one swallowed up dirt, swallowed up grass, all of that. It's badly damaged and starts to throw out explosions. Even for a moment, if you look closely, you'll see flames coming out from behind the engine. This video is just to show you the dangers of flying in fog, whether it's for airplanes or helicopters. In this particular case, we have the Iranian president who traveled to the border with Azerbaijan to inaugurate a dam. It's a dam located at the border between the two countries, which is marked by a river. The two countries worked together on this dam, and both presidents inaugurated it this morning. There are photos in the Iranian media. On the way back to Tehran. So actually, if you look, you have Tehran, and the border with Azerbaijan is more towards the northwest. The largest airport in the region, let's say the most decent airport, is the one in Tabriz. And when we look at the Meteorological Aerodrome Report S, the meteorological messages, whether it's the Meteorological Aerodrome Report, which is an observation, or if we also look at the TAFs, which are the forecasts, well, they talk about the same thing, both of them. Reduced visibility, presence of thunderstorms, thunderstorm cells. We have cumulonimbus clouds in the area. So these are the vertically developing clouds that spread out like an anvil and cause turbulence, which cause a lot of problems. Aviation, and they can close off part of the sky, sometimes forcing planes to divert, to change their route. So there's definitely the problem of the weather. It's even likely that there's no need to look for another cause. That very likely the weather alone can explain what happened. What happened is likely established. We'll see in the next few hours what we're told. It's night in Iran, rescuers are present, but fog is making things difficult. So, Sus, there's this first option, which is that the Iranian president is dead. He crashed brutally into the mountains, covered by the fog. So that's it. There's no forgiveness for that. The video I showed you with that Airbus A320 where there were 181 people remains the exception. CFITs generally don't forgive. CFITs usually end up with widows and orphans. So here, there's this option. There's option number 2, to which at this stage I give less importance. I consider it less likely. I give it a relatively low weight or importance. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it's unlikely. That's what I'm saying. That's it. This helicopter was flying. The pilots see the weather deteriorating quickly and progressively, which isn't even a surprise actually, because the reports published several hours ago already indicated a deterioration in the weather. So they must have, I imagine, they must have looked at the weather file. There you go. They must have seen that it was so-so, just average. Even if they didn't look directly, that's enough. So maybe they resorted to that option, which is to land somewhere. Helicopters, unlike planes, have more flexibility to make emergency landings. A potato field, a schoolyard, anything, any place can be suitable for an emergency landing. The big problem with Iranian aviation, besides the weather and the terrain, is the embargo. The embargo has been going on for many years. This country uses very outdated aircraft in both civil and military sectors. You'll find aircraft here that you don't see anywhere else, actually. So these aircraft, since they're old, there are no more spare parts for them. They can't buy them, so they must make, recycle, or get them on the grey or black market. So very often the mechanics themselves, or the age, if you will, of their aircraft is often involved in the tragedies they experience. Now, we'll see. Was this Mikoyan Gurevich type helicopter, which dates back to the Soviet era, well maintained? Did its instruments work? All of that needs to be checked. Did its turbines run properly and everything? Did that play a role? We don't know, but generally, when you look at the weather, when there was weather, the mountains, it's usually self-contained. There's no need to add anything else. If the Iranian president died in this incident, we'll be hearing the usual stories for a long time. We'll hear stories that his helicopter was sabotaged, that it was hit by a missile, that he wasn't inside and was killed somewhere else. We'll definitely hear all those stories. It's something inevitable. And will we ever get truly definitive and complete answers that will satisfy everyone? Probably never. Look at President Zia, the president of Pakistan. He died in a plane. He crashed in a Hercules, killing with him the American ambassador to Pakistan. Until now, there are a lot of versions circulating, because when high-profile figures end up in a plane, given their background, you can always develop the idea that it wasn't completely an accident, that someone must have had it in for them. But in my opinion today, I don't think there are many chances of finding him alive. If he had landed, if he had made an emergency landing, let's imagine that on the way back the weather gets worse. He decides to find a cove, a spot, and he lands. If they had done that, they still would have raised the alarm. They still would have informed someone. They would have talked about it on the radio frequency. So this story would have been resolved without making the noise it's making now. So probably we're looking at a crash scenario at this point. If you look at the International Civil Aviation Organization level, when an aircraft disappears, because in this specific case, we're talking about a disappearance, there are several phases, and perhaps we'll discuss them later. The first is uncertainty. We have uncertainties about this aircraft. That is to say, for example, it no longer responds on the frequency, we can't hear it anymore, we try to contact it, it doesn't answer, we don't see it on the radar. So at that point, it's a phase of uncertainty. After that, there's a phase we call the insert FA. Then there's another phase that's also extremely codified, which we call the alert phase. That means it's not that we have uncertainties. We're very worried about the aircraft's fate at this point. And then we start looking for it. We start trying to ask other pilots to contact it. We start asking aircraft in the area to fly over certain places to check everything out. And then after that, we have the third one. So this phase is called the alert FA, alert FA. So the first one is insert FA, the second is alert FA, and the third is distress FA, the distress phase. In this phase, it means he is not in flight. We review the flight plan and see he had 3 hours of fuel. Since that time has passed, he can't still be flying. It's impossible. He landed somewhere. We called everyone, but no one saw him. He may have made a forced landing in the countryside. That's the best thing that could happen for the aircraft and its occupants. Or he crashed. So now we're in the Iranian story. We're in the story of the FAA distress. So there's a distress situation. If you check this channel, there are 2 videos on this topic that may interest you, in addition to the one that will come later. Well, there's a video about a wedding in Brazil. In Brazil, you have a helicopter that's flying, and then it's flying into an area with increasingly dense fog. Visibility is dropping. We're in the context of a wedding. It's carrying a bride. The pilot is starting to lose. He no longer has a visible horizon, and from time to time, he's losing sight of the ground. Then suddenly, zero visibility. He loses control. He's completely in instrument meteorological conditions. He loses control. And everyone gets killed. That's the first thing. Why didn't he land? He could have landed the helicopter anywhere, a parking lot, tennis court, or schoolyard. Why didn't he? That's what the French Bureau d'enquête et d'analyse often calls target fixation. I have to go. I have clients. I have several clients waiting. I have to go home. This woman must marry at 2 p.m. and I need to take her back or the wedding will be delayed. We have no choice. There are other people who have booked the hall afterwards. There are other people who have booked the helicopter afterwards. Do you see this operational pressure? The weather has never killed any pilot, actually. It's the operational pressure that kills pilots. And I have another file that I'm preparing. I'll always tell you about it. People, the weather is what it is. We see it and we know it. There's no pilot who's just flying like that. Suddenly the weather hits him hard. That doesn't exist. We see it long in advance. We often know it even before taking off. And even if we take off and it gets worse, we know it and we see it. What persists, what continues is because there was a fascination with the goal. The other case is the United States. What was his name? He was a basketball player. I can't recall the name. Same in California. He is stealing. In a helicopter, a lot of people in the helicopter, I think from memory, 6 or 7 people, a big helicopter still. And then at some point, sudden entry into instrument meteorological conditions, into instrument flight conditions, not prepared, nothing at all, white out everywhere. The pilot kept going for quite a while, even as the conditions were getting worse. But, well, he has an important client, a very important person. He has to bring him back. The day is a write-off. There are many tasks on the schedule that must be done, so we keep rushing. The same logic likely applies. I had written a little booklet. It's not a book, it's really a booklet that's, I think, 80 or 90 pages with 6 or 7 stories. I'll show it to you on the screen during editing. It's a book I wrote telling stories specifically about presidential accidents. And when you look at these presidential accidents, there's something in common there. Every time, it's the fascination with the camera because it's an important personality. We have hand-picked pilots to be the perfect executors and to always be there. When the client is there, when the boss wants to go somewhere, we take him. The Polish accident that I mentioned in this channel as well. Look at the accident of the chief executive officer of Total. He's not a president, the chief executive officer of Total. He's not a president in the sense of a nation's president, but he's the president of a group, of an important group. Same thing, we always have this pressure, this fascination with the goal. And you have to go at all costs. When you want to go at all costs, sometimes you pay the price. So now we'll see in the coming hours how much this helicopter takes a beating, what it's going to do. But it's something that makes sense, but could end quite tragically. I'll keep you updated, and then I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for your continued support of this channel. See you in the next video. Thank you for your continued support of this channel.